Another episode of Two Bad Nerds, episode 6 now. We're going to talk about the PS4 reveal. This was revealed on the 20th of February at 6 p.m. It was a 2-hour presentation. So we're just going to get into a couple questions, just talk about each other's opinions on things, and go from there.
Sounds good. Okay.
Okay, so first question. Um, Basically, the overall presentation. Did you enjoy the presentation that Sony had?
I did. I thought it was a good length. I mean, 2 hours, give or take, could be bad or good, but the way that they presented it, they focused on a lot of the hardware, first of all, and then they went into the games. I thought they did a really good job of keeping people's attention and getting people, psyched for the system. There were a couple slow points, obviously, with some of the presenters being a little long-winded and some of the stuff not being totally geared for gamers. But for the most part, I really did enjoy this presentation, and I thought that this was a good reveal for a system. What about you?
Yeah, yeah. These kind of things, it's hard to get like, this super excited Michael Bay type presentation. You're not going to have that. You know what I mean? They're talking specs. They're talking about what's going to come out. Some of it, yes, it did get a little kind of drawn out. Especially when he was talking about the storage and the actual specs of it. For some people, may not. That doesn't really matter as much. They'd just rather look at a spec sheet. Rather than hear someone, read out specs to them.
Mhm.
And the presenter was a little wonky. I thought just the guy himself, character-wise, he seemed a little wacky. But whatever. I mean, it's fine. That's how these things are. I still thought it was a good presentation. It gave a lot of information, in those the 2 hours. So yeah, no, I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I really do think it was a good presentation overall. Yeah, the guy, like you said, not everybody has stage presence. You know what I mean? These people, they do this, once a year maybe at E3. They're not really in the public eye.
Right.
So it's kind of hard for them to get that, that sense of being like calm or maybe making things more interesting, not sounding so much like a dork. But
Right.
yeah.
Like a cartoon character.
hmm But okay, good. So we'll jump into another question here. What did you think of the PS4 DualShock 4 and the stereo camera peripheral? The reason I say it that way is because they showed not just the controller, which I will just point out a few things. It had the touchpad, which is
Hmm.
different. It has a speaker. It has a light bar. It has an audio jack, and it has a share button. Those are the main big differences that it has compared to the PS3 model. So what are your opinions?
Well, let's start with the good. What I liked the most about it. I like the share button. I think that's an awesome idea. Being able to record videos of what you're playing, clips, all that kind of thing. I mean that's really awesome. Um, the touchpad on the top of the PlayStation. I thought that was cool. We'll see how they can integrate that because I don't know how easy that's going to be to move your fingers up there. But again, we'll see how that works. The triggers, from what they said, are supposed to be more responsive. The controller itself seemed a little thicker, which I actually kind of like. Because I always felt the PS3 and the PS2 controller was a little small for my hands. So I liked the look. It just looked a little thicker. I mean, who knows if it actually is, but it looked like it was. And like I said, the triggers, the way they were positioned, seemed a little better. As far as the light bar, I'm not sure exactly where they're like what the plan is to do with that. Someone said something about like it can sense if you're in the room or your heartbeat or something like that. I don't really know how they're going to use that, but I mean, it should sounds interesting. Um, what was the other thing? And as far as the Move controller, like they showed a little demo with puppets. They were moving the puppets back and forth. I mean, it looked kind of cool. I don't know how much use that will have in a game, but it's there, and it can't hurt to be there. And if developers use it right, I'm sure it can lead to some interesting ways of playing games. So
That's
what did you think?
I share a lot of your thoughts about that. Yes, the controller, I mean, you know me, I use PlayStation a lot, so I can definitely tell that the controller is thicker. So that's a good thing because obviously being men, we have bigger hands, and it's it's especially the original model of the PlayStation 3 controller when it didn't have the DualShock in there. It was light and it was also thin, and it just didn't feel right. When they added the DualShock in after a lawsuit or whatever the hell happened, it felt better because it was heavier. So this probably is going to have good weight, and it also seems like it's going to have really good thickness to it. So that's definitely a good thing. The touchpad is a good thing, but it is true, just like the PlayStation 3 control, when it had the 6-axis control, which is the movement, the developers felt the need to integrate that into their games, and most of it felt really tacked on. And very soon after the launch, most companies decided not to use it at all. So it became a feature that no one used. You know what I mean? So I kind of hope it doesn't go that route, but it's possible that it could. It's there for convenience, but to make things different, to add something different to a game, but I'm not sure how really it's going to work. I just hope that it doesn't feel tacked on. The share button's good. The triggers being up more seems like a good thing. Also, something is that they changed the analog sticks from being rounded. Again, you're not as familiar with them as I am, but the current analog sticks for the PS3, the top of the stick is rounded like this. So when you're playing for a long time, if you're sweaty or something like that, your fingers can actually tend to slip. So what they did is they made them concave now. So your thumbs kind of place in there well and won't move.
Okay.
So to me, that's a really good change. It might not be totally noticeable to somebody who doesn't play PlayStation often, but for someone who does, that's a really good change. The share button's a good thing. The audio jack is a good thing. That I relate to another, Nintendo having, an audio jack in theirs close. So, it just gives you options. So if you want to put a headset on, you don't have to plug it into the console. You can plug it into your controller. Stuff like that is really good. As far as the sensor bar I'm used to because I had a Move, and it seems like it's basically the same type of thing that was on the top of the Move controller, which is the ball. They used it basically for like depth perception, you know what I mean? So that between the camera, which is the other peripheral I mentioned, the stereo camera that they have, and the light, it's able to identify where you are in the room. Your distance and stuff. So they can use that to their advantage. And also, either they mentioned it in the presentation or I read that there's going to be different colors, which just like the Move controller has. So like player 1 is always going to be blue. Player 2 is going to be red. Player 3 is going to be like green or orange. There's 4, I believe, colors. So it's going to easily identify the player. So if you're playing with 4 people, the system will know if player 1's over here, player 2's here, player 3 here, player 4 here. Now, how they're going to use that, I don't know. I'm sure there's a reason for it, but it'd be interesting to know how they're going to do that.
Yeah.
But that's all I have to say about the controller and the peripheral.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot there for developers to use and to integrate into games. And like I said, hopefully it doesn't just become something they use for a couple months and then, a year from now, nobody's using any of these things.
Right.
All right, so let's see. The next question then. Sony is still supporting the PS Move and the PS Vita. So are you at all interested in motion controls or remote play using the PS Vita?
I currently don't have a Vita. Obviously, we know that Vita is kind of lacking in the sales department, so I'm not saying that the device is not capable. It's certainly a gorgeous device. It certainly has some cool features on there, and also it has the back touch and the front touch. So, which leads me to believe why they went with the controller. Going back on the other question just slightly, maybe why they wanted to add touch there to add this further integration with remote play and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think it could be cool. But it's something I'm not going to really search for. Remote play is okay. It really depends on the game. How many games do I really want to take up and play with me? I'm not into really sports games, so it's not like something that I could be like, I'm playing a sports game with a bunch of people, but I kind of got to hit the road, and I want to take my Vita with me and continue the game. I can't see many games that I would want to do that with. And if I'm home, why wouldn't I just want to play with the PS4? You know what I mean? So,
on your big TV, right?
On my big TV. So, I think it's good. They're doing it because the PS Vita needs support. Basically, that's the only reason that they're doing it. So, I want to give them that support. I hope the Vita does well with better games. So that's not a bad thing. It's just, for me, it doesn't really do anything for me. As far as move and motion controls, I'm not opposed to motion controls, but Sony has not done it well yet. You know what I mean? They're not the masters of motion control. There's another company that does motion controls well. Sony is not one of them. I had the PlayStation Move for some time. I sold it recently, but only one game did motion controls well, and there's a game called Sorcery, which most people were really interested in for PlayStation because it was dedicated to the Move. They added it on as a tack-on item for shooting games and mostly the other games, saying that you have another way to play, which is not a bad thing because different control styles is good. Because it brings a wider audience. Some people don't like to play with a control like this. Some people feel more engaged playing with motion and like using their thing as motion and it's a gun. You know what I mean? And that's fine. But if they don't make games specific for the Move that are interesting and unique, it's going to fail again.
Yeah.
So that's what I have to say about that.
No, I definitely agree. I wonder, the motion controls and everything with the Vita seem like it's great for the people who already have a Vita. Is it going to sell more Vitas though? I wonder. I mean, maybe it will. Maybe like you said, some people will be interested in the play everywhere type dynamic. I mean, I'm interested in it. It does sound cool. I just wonder to what extent can they do that? Like, is it exactly the same game I'm playing on the Vita, or is it a dumbed down version of the game? And if it is dumbed down, how far is it? Is it to the point where it's a game I could play on my mobile phone? Because if that's the case, well then why am I going to spend $300 some on a Vita? That doesn't make any sense. So I guess it depends. We're going to have to see on that one. It does sound interesting. It does sound like something I would want to get into myself. But again, I have to see how much they actually apply that. As far as motion controls, you know how I am about motion controls. I like a controller. I'm old school. I'm not really too into motion controls. I've played some games with like that. Mostly, party games. Mario type games or the Wii party games and stuff like that. Where it's fun, I get it, but it's not something I personally would like to do for, a couple hours on end, standing around and waving my hands. So again, it depends on how they implement and how they use it. And like the last question, hopefully they do it in interesting ways and not just, not just tack it on, where with some games where it just feels like, oh, you can do this one thing with motion, but then it's like there's nothing else to do. So why would you even bother?
I hear you. All right, next question. This one's about exclusives. I only mentioned a couple here, but they did have maybe more exclusive. That one with the Move was technically an exclusive, but they showed some exclusives such as Knack, Infamous Second Son, and Killzone Shadowfall. Did you like any of these exclusives, even the ones that I may have missed on here?
Well, yeah. Actually, I thought Infamous looked awesome. I don't know how much of that what we saw from what I saw was actual gameplay, but it looked amazing. So that definitely looks like a fun game. And it is something I want to check out because I don't own a PS3, so that is a series that I would have liked to to get into. So I am thinking about getting a PS4, so that would be a game that I would like to jump into because it does look really cool. Knack looked really interesting too. At first, when I saw it, I was like, "Oh, this is kind of a kiddie game." But then when I was watching, the whole make yourself smaller, make yourself bigger, add stuff, is kind of a puzzly type action game where you really had to think about things. That looked really cool, very different, than than anything I've ever seen. Not that I don't play a lot of puzzle games, but I've never seen anything like that. And the fact that it seemed like, from what I have seen on the videos, the version that went to the Vita was pretty similar to what was already playing on the PS4. Obviously not graphic-wise, but it seemed like it went right to it. So if that's what's going to be, possible with the Vita and the PS4 and with some of these games, then I think that's really exciting. That they can come up with these new properties and already have them so well integrated into not only the PS4 but also the Vita. And Killzone, I mean, it looked cool. It looked a little brighter than I had seen before. One of the commenters said it looked like like almost like it was in a Mario game at some points because it was so bright. There was so many colors. You know, I don't know because like I said, I've only seen other Killzone games in videos and clips and stuff like that, and they look dark. This one did seem a little brighter, but you know, whatever. It looked really cool. Obviously, it looked amazing. All the games looked amazing. Let's be honest. The other one was the Shadowfall. I saw that the demonstration of that. I thought that looked really amazing. Just looking at it looked amazing, and the way you were interacting with the people, like kind of like a GTA type environment. But you could, I think he pulled up like a cell phone, and he was like analyzing the people that were around him and getting data and information. It seemed really smooth the way he was moving around. There was no clipping or any kind of jagginess to it, and it just seemed even when he was running through like a an alleyway and he was jumping over stuff and
Mhm.
knocking stuff out of the way. It really flowed. Like it really looked like someone was doing that. Not that it
Yeah,
was a game showing that. So yeah, I thought that the exclusives looked amazing, and everybody should be excited about them.
yeah. Well, I do want to correct you there. The last one that you mentioned wasn't Shadowfall. I can't remember what it's called, but it's a multi-platform game.
Okay.
That's one of them. It's a multi-platform game, and I believe so. We'll get somebody either in the commenters or we'll put it in the comments somewhere in the description what it's actually called. I can't remember,
Okay.
but it is one of those titles that people have been waiting for, and I do agree. It looks really good. It has a really good concept, and I believe that one's coming also to current gen consoles as well as next gen. But obviously, based on that presentation, it looks like it would be ideal on the next gen console because, as you said, it looked amazing. It looked basically like taken straight out of like a scene. It was really cool.
Right. Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
But as far as the exclusives, like you mentioned, well, I'll say Killzone Shadowfall right off the bat. I mean, it looks good, but I really don't care about a first-person shooter like at all. I don't care anything about them. So the storyline could be great. Graphically, it looks pretty cool, but I can't notice any kind of difference between what they currently have now, which they're at the max of their current technology. They've been pushing the hardware, in the PS3. So I'm sure it's going to look very similar to what that looks, so I'm sure it looks nice, but only people who really enjoy first-person shooters or have played the series can really give an accurate you know, discussion about that. I
Right.
can't. So it looks good, but that's about it. Knack really does look good because I agree. When I first saw it, when the guy first showed this little character that can like get bigger and stuff, I'm like, okay, this is a kid's game. Why are we showing a kid's game here? But no, you're right. It did seem as the presentation went on with the video that there's a lot more to it. It can be a lot more strategic, like you mentioned. I do like the idea that he can absorb stuff and become bigger and transform pretty cool. Like he doesn't look like a little toy anymore when he gets so big. He just looks crazy, humongous. So
Right.
that's pretty cool. I want to see more information before I totally say I love it or I want to get it.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
it does look interesting. Now, Infamous Second Son, that I'm very, very happy for. I'm glad that they brought the series back. I think it was a good selling series for exclusive for PlayStation. I played the first one. I played a little bit of the second one, and I played the spin-off, which was when he was like a vampire and stuff, which was amazing. That one I finished amazing,
Hmm.
based off of uh, the world of number two. This one's totally different. I mean, they're taking a different approach. It's no longer Cole, which people are kind of shocked. It's a totally new protagonist,
Hmm.
and but it does look pretty cool. I mean, they're saying that there's going to be stuff with smoke this time as the power. I want to see how that really comes to fruition.
Hmm.
So I'm
Right.
really interested in that title, but I just really want to see more about it. But so far they're doing okay when it comes to exclusives. Um, I still wish that there was something else in there besides those that would have that they would have showed off. But I would have liked to have seen personally like an exclusive title from like Square Enix or something like that. Me, I'm a Final Fantasy fanboy,
Right.
so I would have liked to see something exclusive to PlayStation again from Square Enix. That would have made me probably jump into getting the system. But oh well.
Oh, the game was Watch Dogs.
There you go. Watch
All
that.
right. My bad.
That's okay. Not a problem. So yeah, that one's coming multi-platform. So, all right. Next question here. I forget who asked the last one, so I'll just ask it anyway. What do you think about social gaming network? They talked about sharing pictures, videos. You can text chat while playing, like the text coming up on your screen. Also, pick up and play for you when you're online. Let me just explain that. They talked about if you were at your home, like we're talking right now online, you're playing a game, I'm playing a game, but you're stuck at that part of the game. I can pick up the controller and play for you, even though we're online, and help you through the level. So,
Mm.
what are your opinions on that?
I mean, that seems really cool. I kind of wonder if this is going to be like a new, if this is going to create like some jobs. Like, are people going to actually, if this is possible, if you can't beat a level, are you going to pay someone, say, hey, I give you $5, come online with me and beat this level for me? I mean, we laugh, but like that kind of stuff goes on in like PC games with like Diablo, where people will pay real money for
That's true.
a sword or like a weapon, So who knows? I mean, this could become kind of a player-to-player microtransaction type thing, where people do that. But yeah, I think that's amazing. That's pretty cool that someone could just take
Hmm.
over your game. I mean, I'd be interested to see how it allows it to do that securely. How someone couldn't just obviously they have this something in the way to prevent it from someone just taking over your controller at all times.
Hmm.
So it would have to have a way to synchronize that. But if you can do that through the internet, where someone could flawlessly play your game as if they were sitting right next to you, that's very impressive.
Hmm.
Because we all know with lag and stuff like that, sometimes things don't work exactly the way it should. So if they can make it so that it does work flawlessly, that's really impressive. Um, as far as the share, like I said about the share button with sharing pictures, videos, that's awesome. I like the ability to be able to share it to any of your social networks, any of your sites that you're on, pictures of the stuff you got going on. That's great. It's great for Sony because it's free advertising of their games and what you can do and all that stuff, and it's great for people who don't maybe have the games, and they can look at the clips that I've posted or you've posted or whatever and say, oh, that looks like fun. I want to play this game.
Right.
As far as the party chat, that's something I'm used to. With Xbox 360, you could always chat. If you were playing, if I was playing Halo and you were playing Gears of War, we could always chat, like even though we're not in the same game.
Okay.
So that's something I'm used to. But yeah, that's a great feature because a lot of times, you will go on and your friends will be playing a different game and um, they really you want to talk to them,
Hmm.
but you don't want to end your game. Or I'm playing a fighting game and you're playing an online shooting game. Well, I don't want to end my fighting game, but I still want to have a conversation. That's a great idea. I mean, everybody should be able to do that. Because it's just makes it so much more fun, even when you're not playing the same game, just to be able to talk about it. Or I can just ask you a question like, hey, how did you beat this level? Without you having to go into the game to tell me how to beat the level, you can just
Hmm.
tell me right there.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I think all of that is great.
Cool. Yeah, I'm positive about it. I mean, sharing pictures and videos, that's a duh thing, but I really want them to explain where we can share it. That's a big thing. They talked about videos that you can do Ustream
Hmm.
stuff, which Ustream is, like this, like doing live events and stuff like that. You can do Ustream, which is cool that they're partnering with Ustream for some stuff. But I want to know, can we send this stuff to YouTube? Because I rather YouTube
Right. Yeah.
than any other social network. And were these pictures, are we easily able to send them to Facebook or to Google Plus or to Twitter, stuff like
Right.
that, stuff that I want to, places I want to send it. What it seems like is that they want to focus on their social network,
Mm.
which, I get that they want to have more control, and I'm
Right.
not opposed to it, but in the beginning, it's going to take a while to get that fan base going, that you get all these people there, because if it's just able to be shared with, within that social network, a lot of people still won't be able to see this content. So
Right.
it's a give
Kind of
and take.
limiting.
Yeah, it is limiting. So it would be good if they push that. That's fine if they want to push their social network, but also give us the freedom of sharing elsewhere somehow. If they
Right.
make it a little convoluted, that you have to use like a SD card or something like that,
Yeah.
okay. But still,
It's
at least
still going to be kind of annoying. It's just so much work.
Well, I mean, it's work, but it's not work because before you had to buy your own capture device in order to
Well,
capture
that's
pictures.
true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
that's true.
they're taking some of the legwork out, but they should at least give us the freedom of sharing where we want to share it. Is what my main thing is. The pick up and play idea is great. They did mention that there will be. They said in the beginning, based on your settings. So
Mm,
right there it says, you can choose to have that enabled or not enabled. And
right.
I imagine that's not just going to be everybody, it's going to be people on your friends list. So it would be kind of ridiculous if they just let anybody pick up and play for you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you would assume that most people would only do that with people that they trust. People
Mm,
that you trust generally should be on your friends list. It's not
right.
always the case, but whatever. So I think that solves that issue right there. And I think it's going to be really cool. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely, like I said, just to reiterate on what you're saying, I just hope that the sharing thing is simple.
Mhm.
Don't make us jump through hoops to do it. We're doing you a favor as a company. We're broadcasting the message to everybody. Play this game. Look at this. Look at that. Look at what I can do. So if we're your spokesperson, we're selling for you for free. You should try to make it as easy as possible. Don't make us go through other things, to try to do it, because what's going to end up happening is the only people who are going to do that are like the really dedicated people, and the regular people are just going to be like, well, that's not worth my time, and then nobody's using the share button.
Yeah.
So again, hopefully they make it somewhat simple. Um,
Yeah. I agree.
all right, so lastly, we got E3 coming up soon. So obviously, with the 2 hours, they gave us a lot of good information. Um, but what do you want to see from Sony at E3?
Well, everybody wants to know what the console looks like. We had this teaser
That's number
trailer.
one.
We had this teaser trailer, and I personally care, but I don't care about the console how it looks. It more matters, is it functional? Like, if is it going to have any ports that you can do stuff on? You know what I mean? Is it going to be so big that I need its own stand? You know what I mean? Stuff like that is what I
Right.
want to know. If it's pumping out all this stuff, if it can do all this stuff simultaneously, like it says it can download in the background while you're playing your game, and when you buy a game, you can play the game immediately. If you buy it online, you can play it immediately because a partial part of the game is already downloaded, and
Right.
then it's going to download as you play. So to do that, it's going to need a lot of ventilation with the fans. So I just imagine it's going to be pretty humongous. So I'm hoping that it's big but not too big. That's
Right.
one
Right.
thing I'm hoping. As far as anything else from Sony, I'm just saying more exclusives. Just show me more why I need to get the PS4 at launch. Because yeah, eventually I want to get a PS4. I like Sony. You know what I mean? I'm going to continue with the brand, but tell me why I need to go out and get it now. So far, the only thing I really saw was Infamous. But is that enough for me to get a PlayStation 4 right out the gate? No, not at
Yeah.
all. So I need to see more stuff, and more stuff that I like. I like RPG games. So again, bring this back again to Square would be great to see an exclusive coming from them that I have to get. But other than that, I think Sony's doing it right. They're focusing on the games, which people want. They focused on the hardware, and not hiding anything from people. Everything's there for you. Just tell us, how you're going to use that touchpad. What is going to be so great about that touchpad? Stuff like that.
Right.
I just want to know. I just want to know that. But basically, it's games. Sony, bring more games, bring more exclusives, and tell me why I need to get this at launch. What about you?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. The number one thing is obviously I want to see. I'm curious to see what it looks like. Price is a big deal.
That's true. Hmm.
Obviously, like we said before, the PS3 launched at $600, and that kind of slowed the sales in the
Yes, it
beginning
did.
because it was like, well, you had the Wii for so cheap, and you had the 360 for so cheap, and then you got this thing that's $600. It's like, it's a lot of money to put into a system, and that didn't include any games, I don't think either. So.
I can't remember, but I don't
Yeah,
think so. I don't think so.
yeah. So you're looking at almost $700 just to play one game.
Hmm.
Um, I have the same questions as you. Like, as good as everything looks on the PS4, why would I, if I don't own a PS3, but if I owned a PS3, why would I get rid of my PS3 and instantly jump at the PS4? I mean, yes, Infamous looks awesome. Yes, Knack looks awesome, and Naughty and Watch Dogs looks awesome, but is it enough for me right now to spend $600? Or again, I'm guessing it's going to be $600, but is it going to be enough to spend four, $500, $600 plus the price of a game to play one or two of those games? I don't know right now. Like I said, it's got a lot of cool features, but and we all know how consoles are. You know, they're the first batch of consoles always seems like there's some kind of issues. You know, no matter who the
That's true.
company is that makes it. You know, so do you want to jump in and risk having issues, or do you want to wait a little while and until the next batch comes out? Um, you know, we don't know. But and then if you're waiting for the next batch, you know, who knows when that might be? Because you know, we all know how that's gone. You know, with the PS2, you know, people were waiting months to get it. So I'm curious. Like I said, price is the main thing, and sell me the system. Tell me why I have to have it like right now. I have to have it when it launches. That's what I want to know.
That you brought up a good point that I just want to mention too. You said about getting rid of your PS3.
Mm,
That's a great point because me having a PS3, they have to tell me why I need this in addition to my PS3 because they mentioned this is not backwards compatible. You
right.
know, they didn't really go into the backwards compatible. They talked about, you know, that you could everything everywhere that you're going to be able to eventually to pay past games, present games, and future games. But they didn't really talk about, you know, they didn't really talk about it in depth about
Right.
backwards compatibility. So for now, it seems like you will have to have, if you currently own one, a PS3
And
and
a PS4.
and a PS4 for certain games.
Right.
That's a lot of commitment to Sony. In my, you know,
Right.
it's just a lot of commitment. Two big ass systems next to each other. Why do I need to do that right now? Why don't I just wait? You know, a year down the road, maybe with a price drop, maybe with more information about backwards compatibility. They really need to come strong as to why we need this right away.
Yeah. No, no, I agree. And you brought up a good point about the past library. You know, they said it'll be available. They didn't say when.
Exactly.
So so if it's a month after launch, okay, that's fine. But if it's 6 months, a year, well then I'm gonna have to hold on to if I don't own a PS3. But if I owned a PS3, I'm gonna have to hold on to it if I want to keep playing the games that I currently have.
Right.
So then you're just like, well, am I really gonna jump right into this then, or should I just wait till that's available and then I'll buy the PS4? So
That's that's the question. That's what I'm
yeah,
thinking right now personally. It's like, you know, I have a good library of games. Why do I want to go into something and have basically no games? So I don't know.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and like I said, you're gonna deal with the expensive price, you know, because you're gonna get the launch price, whatever it's gonna be. You're gonna deal with the fact that there's probably gonna be issues because there always is. You
Hmm.
know, most launch lineups aren't usually the greatest anyway. I mean, when was the last time we saw a launch lineup where you had to buy the system, you know, out the gate? It doesn't usually happen, you know.
Right.
So maybe it's worth it to wait a couple months and get a cheaper system with better games available that your PS3 games will be able to play on it, you know, right out the gate. You know, then you can again trade in your PS3 and save yourself some money for those of
Yeah.
us, you know, who aren't you know, rolling in money. That's a big thing too. You know,
Yeah,
a lot of
absolutely.
us, you know, trade in our systems to get the newer system. Well, if
Hmm.
you have to hold on to your system to get the new, you know, because the newer system doesn't play those games, well, you know, that's it's making it even more expensive.
Yep. I agree.
So, so a lot of
Uh,
questions. You know, I'm interested to see what they're gonna say.
yeah, E3 should be really interesting, and it's right around the corner, so we'll get our answers very soon. Well, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah, and like I said, I don't own a PS3, but the PS4 really has me interested. You know,
Good.
I said this before, like this might be the I had an Xbox and a PS2 when they both launched. You know, and I was very happy with both systems. I wasn't really so interested in the PS3. I just stuck with the Xbox 360 this console generation. But this could be the year I go back to having both again because they both seem, you know, to have innovative features and things that would warrant having both systems. But
Gotcha.
I have a lot of questions I need answered before, you know, I make that kind of commitment.
Yep, that makes sense. All right. Well, this was a pretty good discussion.
It was. It was.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to bring up, or you think you're good?
No, I think we're good.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. Please leave us some comments. You know, let us know what you thought about it.
All right. Take
All
care,
right.
guys.
Huzzah!